Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Let's start off talking today about in attic to basement estate cleanouts about a Silver Spring home built in 1957. I was working for an attorney that called me several times every year. Some attorneys do a lot of probate work and others rarely do. This house had some interesting furniture and figurines. Unfortunately, while working there, a porcelain vase with flowers and a cherub statue were broken. That didn't happen often. But when it did, I worried that those would be the pieces that the family member wanted to keep. That's why if family was in town, I preferred they mark what they wanted to keep and even take it out of the house before I started work. That way we didn't send anything to charity that wasn't valuable, but had sentimental meaning to a family member. There were several needlepoint pictures that were hung on the walls, but no one wanted them. A nephew wanted to keep a rounded curio cabinet. A little chessboard on legs was in the basement, along with a very large stereo speaker and radio, along with a radial arm saw. This house was only 1,100 square feet, and the owner was not a hoarder. So my helper and I worked 2 days, and I met the trash hauler Junket Dump at one day, and Roy from Associated Auctioneers the final day for 3 hours. Let's speak a little bit more about who called me for work. As I stated earlier, some attorneys only had one job for me a year, but others gave me 5 or more a year. If they were in a large legal firm, I might get a dozen houses to clear out in a year. If you want to start an estate cleanout company, find networking meetings that attorneys, social workers, and senior housing employees attend. Social workers often have clients that are hospitalized and that are never going to be able to live alone again. A social worker was assigned to them because the patient had no family to oversee their care. The social worker also has been to the house to see if it's safe for the patient to return there. Sometimes the social worker was assigned to a patient after the emergency medical crew was called to the house, and they see the state of the house and realize that where the patient's living is not safe. A few times a year, I was called in to straighten up a house enough so that a patient could come back to live in the home, but it's been months that the house has been empty. The refrigerator needs to be emptied of moldy food, and we also went through the cupboards in the kitchen and bathroom and emptied out dated food and medicines. Sometimes we found medicines that had expired 20 years ago, taking up space in the medical cabinet. These were also homes that had magazines and mail piled up that we needed to sort through. And we would have all the trash taken out to the curb, or if there was too much, we would call a trash hauler. Many times we found filthy conditions and nothing of nutritional value in the cupboards, and would report back to the social worker or attorney so they knew the person living there, how the person was living there if they had not been in the home yet. Usually they did know, and we were just giving them more verification. One apartment in Chevy Chase, Maryland was lived in by 2 sisters. One had died recently and the other was hospitalized. The round-the-clock caregivers had put things they wanted out on the balcony. I didn't know if my employer knew this was happening, so I told the social worker. Part of my reasoning was I didn't want to be blamed for something disappearing that was to remain in the house. Like I said before, I attended networking meetings monthly when I first started my business, but eventually I felt like I had met everyone that attended these meetings regularly, so then I sent out brochures to over 100 attorneys. Just mailing them was not enough. I needed to call them the next week and ask to speak to them. I knew their time was valuable, so I gave them a 3-sentence description of my business and asked if I could come in and meet with them for 5 to 10 minutes. I found that if I met them face to face, I was much more likely to get work from them when they had an estate with a house or an apartment and no family to empty it. My business was also insured, and after several years, I incorporated attic to basement estate cleanouts. But telling a lawyer that over the phone and seeing them in person were two different things. Talking to them for 10 minutes in their office told them I was serious about working, and they could also see if I looked and acted professionally or if they shouldn't trust me with a key to valuable property. When you attend a networking meeting or walk into an attorney's office, don't wear the clothes you will wear in a dirty basement. Dress up in business casual attire or a suit to show that you care about their business. First impressions can make or break a business relationship. First, a top-notch attorney will want a top-notch worker to represent them in their client's home. Over the course of the work, you may meet neighbors, relatives, and once in a great while, the person who owns the home. Well, that's enough advice for one episode. Let's finish up with a home that was in Hyattsville that my helper and I worked on with the son of the owner. The father had died and been quite a collector of stuff. The mother had died years before. The daughter was not close to her brother, and the son decided he was going to sell the house and move into Washington, D.C. He had some unusual furniture like a child's wooden potty, a Jacobs piano, a big letter L, and a wooden sofa that needed a cushion. The son was a procrastinator, so suggesting to him to put things on Craigslist to sell didn't work. After working with him in the house for 3 days, associated auctioneers came and took away the sofa, a teak bed, a twin bed and dresser, a double bed headboard, and tools from the shed. I remember I set out a dozen crates at the curb for someone who would pick them up the next day. They had been used as shelves in the house in the third bedroom. Several months later, I got a call to help this man unpack his new apartment for one day and suggest items he could buy to organize his closets and where to set his furniture. He obviously had gotten no organizational skills from his parents, but he was getting better himself. Please subscribe, enjoy these photos, and check out Facebook page 800 Houses, 800 Jobs to see more from these two homes.